Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Beaumont, the founder of BRiN, and welcome to this exciting new series called Techpreneurs, where we take you inside the minds and businesses of leading tech entrepreneurs. In the studio right now, we have not one but two entrepreneurs from a company called DriveYello. Over here we have Steve and we have Johnny as well, and they're going to be talking to us about how to build a great tech business. Welcome, guys, to the studio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so we've got 4 parts in this interview. First part, we're going to talk about starting, then we're going to talk about building, we're going to talk about scaling, and also we're going to talk about funding as well. So tell us about the company, DriveYello. Give us a quick snapshot of where it's at right now and how did it come about?
Yeah, sure. DriveYello helps food businesses build great relationships with their customers by providing a premium delivery service. Now, we do that by giving them access to our platform, which is a management and logistics platform that's supported by a community of drivers that are vetted and rated, and they can then provide that quality service to build those relationships.
So who is the customer for DriveYello?
So our main customer at the moment is big corporations and brands. Basically, like Steve said, it's all about people who are looking to have a brand or looking to build a brand and help establish the relationships with their customers. So they're our main sort of brands that we're targeting at the moment.
So it's in food delivery and targeting main already established brands.
Yeah, generally franchises who've got multi-store, who are really looking to maintain that relationship with their customer. They're not looking to get it confused with other brands, with a menu aggregator, for example.
Yeah.
They already are spending plenty of money on acquiring customers and they don't really need that help. They just need help delivering food.
All right, and how fast is the company growing right now?
Well, right now, I mean, if you look at our monthly revenue rate, we've just increased 50% month on month, which is pretty fast for this sort of space. We've just started to roll out some great partnerships with some big brands, so we continue to grow. We've got a major presence in Sydney, and we're just starting our presence down in Melbourne and looking at Brisbane in the next few months as well. Okay,
so let's go back to the beginning. How did you both become entrepreneurs? Maybe if we can start with you, Johnny. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, I guess it was born and bred into me. I think from a young age. My parents have always been entrepreneurs within their own right, I guess. So I learned pretty early. But I bought my first company first business when I was 24, and then sort of been in the hospitality and retail game for the last 12 years. And then spent the last 8 as a multi-site crust pizza franchisee. So I guess it started pretty early, I guess, my journey. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Within the tech game, it's probably been about the last 4 years. So I come from a non-technical background. And I've always been very interested in how technology can influence business. So I guess that's what sort of brought me over to how Yellow began. But Steve's got I wouldn't say much longer journey than me, but he's been around the traps a bit longer than me.
For a bit longer.
That's
anyway.
right, yeah.
Well, for me, I started off as a pro sports person who coded. So when I was 19, I developed my first app for the bar I was working for. This is even before there were apps.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you how old I am. So I was on a subscription service, and then I suppose my first major company was my agency that I started in 2000. We built that up to over 60 people with offices in New York and London. And we also built an enterprise marketing platform that we sold to global businesses worldwide. And I sold that business back in 2010. And then since then, have been really in the startup space in Sydney, just working with other startups, looking for my next startup, and eventually settling on Yellow just on a year and a half ago.
So the company that you took sort of global, your previous company, you sold for over $10 million. So for a lot of people, that's a huge achievement. How were you able to get such a great result in terms of growing that business and then obviously exiting?
Yeah, look, the main thing that was attractive to the buyers at the time was the fact that we had an international presence. And the other thing was we had a platform that was getting annuity income. So our marketing platform was getting big businesses like Unilever, Diageo, Audi, all using this platform to send their marketing material, whether that be emails, whether it be SMS campaigns, surveys. So that sort of annuity income product, subscription service. it was continuing to grow, so that they become very attractive to companies as opposed to just being a digital agency with services.
And if I could ask you a personal question, why did you decide that it was time to move on from that business?
It was just time for me. I think I've been in it for 10 years,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do something new. I also wanted to cash in my chips a little bit. I'd spent some time building that company, and it was just time for me to get out of that particular business and try something new.
So that was a big success, but then you started another company, I believe App Village.
That's correct,
and that didn't go so well.
No.
So what did you learn from the failure, which is different to the success?
Yeah, look, in my previous business, it was a real B2B play. I was selling to businesses, and App Village is a real B2C play. So it was trying to, I suppose, ride the wave of the success of the app world. It was an app virtual incubator. So what we did was we asked people around the world to collaborate, and they would earn equity in an app that we'd make successful. It wasn't successful, I think. Well, part of the reason was we found it really difficult to raise funds. We raised some money initially, so it was about $250,000 seed funding. But it was really hard to compete with those big app companies that have millions of dollars for marketing their games and products, etc. And we found it really difficult to compete with that. And we had some success with a few little different apps, but it wasn't enough to keep people interested. And what I really learned from that was just giving equity to people didn't really keep them engaged. They had to get paid. Obviously, people have to live, and they've got to get revenue through the door, and that people disengaged after a while if they didn't think that the app was going to be successful.
Okay, so let's talk now about DriveYello, and I understand that it was born kind of out of a problem that you had. So tell us a little bit about what that problem was and how you started hunting for a solution.
Sure. So I, like I said before, I had a crust pizza franchise. So I had 5 stores in and around the eastern suburbs of Sydney. 5 stores, a delivery team of about 100 to 140 people. And as you can imagine, it's like herding cats. So it was always a difficult problem from day one. Over those 8 years, it was always a difficult thing.
Because you had drivers coming and going.
Well, it was always the way, right? You're trying to deliver hot food to people's houses in a short period of time. So it's always going to be a difficult thing to try and manage. Yeah. And even from a tracking perspective, the big companies have got their tracking apps where you can track drivers and know where they were. And that was great, but we didn't need help necessarily just around that. What I always thought was, what good was a tracking app if you needed 10 drivers but you only had 2? So we needed a bit more of a solution around that.
So it was always, you were just on the phone saying, where are you? And
basically, and it was a very costly exercise. It was really expensive, not only for me as a business, but also my staffing, the management teams, and you can imagine running 5 stores, it became a very costly part of the business. So anyway, so that went on, and like any good sort of business person, I guess, you look for a solution. And there wasn't anything out there. And I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was, Steve and I have been friends for a long time, and we were around at my house having a couple of beers, as like any good idea starts out happening. And I got a phone call from my management team saying, driver called in sick, or I actually need to remember the story better because it makes for a better story. But it's basically every weekend there was always someone rang in sick, or it was mum's birthday or girlfriend going out or something. So it was like, well, you might have to come into work. And of course, Steve being, you heard of his experience, being the digital guy that he is, turned around and said, surely there's like an app out there where you can, just call on a driver as you need it, like Uber, right? Where you just press a button and someone can come and help you. And I guess, unlucky for me at the time, there wasn't anything like that. But lucky for us at the time, there wasn't anything. So we decided to build something. And I guess we scratched the surface a little bit in terms of just supplying drivers to a busy company and to a busy business. But we like I said, we scratched that surface, and there was so much more beneath it. That led to, like I said before, the cost expense of running the teams, managing the teams, rostering the teams, doing all these bits and pieces. And I guess that's how the first iteration of Yello was born, was off a problem that I had from the beginning. So.
And if you had this problem, and not coming from a technical background, how important was it for you to have someone like Steve to get this idea off the ground? Could you have done it on your own?
No, I don't think I could have. Or I did. I touched on another startup before I got into Yello, and Steve was actually mentoring me at the time on getting that going, and I think that was a really important lesson for me. During that first startup I worked on, I didn't have any mentor. I wasn't part of the startup community within Sydney or Australia. I didn't really know what it meant to be part of that sort of, that community. And it is a real community, the startup community in Australia. And Steve was very, obviously, like he said before, was very much ingrained in it. So I did look to Steve, and I don't think I could have started Yello without him. But vice versa, I think we've got, that's why we always say we're the perfect pair for it, because I had the problem and Steve had the knowledge at least just to get us going. But I'm sure he'd attest that we've both learned as much in the last 18 months as each other, because I think the game we're playing in, the disruption of a market like we're doing is been fantastic. It's been really good. But from a technical perspective, yeah, absolutely. It's very, very difficult. And I guess, like Steve said before, you learn as you go. And I think the resources that you look for are very different, and it's really important to have both sides of the page,
Now, there's lots of entrepreneurs that are watching this, and many of them will find a co-founder. Did you guys put together an agreement between the two? Did it just sort of start as friends and we'll work on this together? Do you think it should just flow organically, or is it important to sit down and actually go, okay, let's formalize this, let's get something kind of in writing so we know kind of how it's all going to go?
That's a problem. I think, and Steve will attest to this, I think that's when you start running into issues. When you do, just be friends and then, okay, let's start a business, and it becomes, because, you need to align jobs, you need to have positions, you need to get it going. And that's where Steve brought a lot of his knowledge into that, and I think it worked really well for us.
So what advice, Steve, would you give to other entrepreneurs that are maybe in this position where a couple of friends have got together, they started working on an idea, and before it gets out of hand, what should they do?
Yeah, look, I've had informal agreements before, and they've always, I wouldn't say ended in tears, but there's been issues around that. It's really important to formalise agreements right up.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.